All right, I'll say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? We will begin this interaction this evening of your time with the following entitlement. Densities of consciousness. We have spoke last interaction of your time about the idea of, as you say, first through fourth density. And at that time did say we would delineate further upon these ideas. Therefore, the subject matter, as you say, of this interaction will be that idea. A little bit more delineation along these lines. Therefore, again, we will begin. The idea before we do, as we have said, is as follows. These particular descriptions are just that. Not in any way, shape, or form are they laws or rigid parameters of existence. Simply observations, descriptions, and in a sense, very arbitrary. However, they are descriptive of the idea of different densifications, if you will, of the idea of consciousness. For the idea is that within all that is are an infinite number of experiences, an infinite number of dimensionalities, and also along these lines the idea is an infinite number of densities. However, within any given framework there are certain, shall we say, guidelines, certain, shall we say, classifications which are relevant within that particular framework. From the idea of another framework, they may have very little or no relevance, as you say. Therefore, this description of your particular octave, if you will, of experience shall be relevant to you and may not be relevant to other civilizations, to other ideas of dimensionality. Therefore, we will begin, as you say, at the beginning. The idea being first density. We have said that this particular density of awareness is point awareness. Therefore, first density will be represented within the symbol you call a single point. Therefore, that particular brand, shall we say, of consciousness is but that, a single point with no other reference, with no other ability to compare, a single pinpoint spot, as you would say. We did delineate last interaction of your time that upon your planet, a close representation of this idea would be your rock and mineral kingdom. For in a very real sense, what you have considered inorganic material is no less a product of consciousness. You may feel as though from your present set of understandings that a rock per se does not have consciousness. No. It is a very congealed form of consciousness, a very solidified form of consciousness, and it will be most representative of the idea of point consciousness, first density consciousness, as you would say in your language. When moving upon and onto the idea of second density, you then add, shall we say, for the purposes again of description, the idea of a second point, thereby being what we will label for this interaction line awareness. This is a more expanded view from the idea of singular point awareness, for it does allow some frame of reference, some idea of removal or comparison. A second density consciousness, as you say, would be represented by the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom upon your planet. And the idea is this. by virtue of the fact that we have, in a sense, added a second point. Again, this is all very colloquial, but you will get the idea. You now have the ability to look back. However, it is limited to simply looking back at the last point. Therefore, this is somewhat descriptive of the consciousness you have labeled upon your planet, animal consciousness. You are not at this timing with your present understandings containing the idea of awareness of how this would relate to your plant kingdom. So we shall use your animal kingdom as a more representative viewpoint of second density to explain that your animals do in fact have little or no concern for the idea of their future. They simply exist in the now. However, they may, in a sense, look back at the last point at which they were at. So their limitation in looking back from whence they came, shall we say, is limited to the last point which they were at. And this is representative of the idea of second density. Again, that density does not have the ability per se to see but where they are, that point, and where they have just been, the other point, between which you may consider, for the purposes of conventionality, a line. When you do add the third dimension, taking one singular point, a second singular point, drawing a line between them, and then adding a third point, that third point can now view the line. It can view where it is. It can view from whence it came. It can see beyond the idea of the last point within the line. This is a more expanded point and expanded view of consciousness. For from the idea of the all-knowingness of all that is, this third point, shall we say, is, colloquially speaking, the first separation. This first separation is again the separation of knowingness, the ability to be self-reflective. Within these parameters, in your particular experience of third density, even though you do look back, even though you may reflect back upon yourself, there is still some seemingness of being a part of the immediate environment. And, in fact, one of the ideas within that type of consciousness, particularly when just adding the third point from two-point type of consciousness, is the sensation or feeling that you are being part of the environment, not in control of your participation or your view of your environment. Therefore, a third density symptom, so to speak, is the idea that one may be controlled or one is a product of their environment. When you add the idea of a fourth point or the fourth density, you are now able to see through yourself, through the other three ideas, realizing that it all does, in effect, come from you. Therefore, less limitation. Therefore, the emphasis is then shifted toward, shall we say, the idea that you do create that entire dimensionality. And there is not the idea of as much separation. More, again, expanded viewpoint. One of, shall we say again, the characteristics of third density, as we have labeled, is the idea of a time continuum, whereby, again, the present is a result of the past, and the present results in the future. When moving to the fourth density point of view, adding again that other aspect, removing yourself, in a sense, from the triangular volumetric experience, you are now able to see yourself from without and realize that it is all actually within. Therefore, all time is then seen as simultaneous. Therefore, the idea of past, the idea of future, in a sense, are still within experiential reality. However, it is all understood to be the idea of simultaneous. Therefore, any now moment has total validity, has total reality, has total manifestability. Therefore, there is no real per se continuum from one point to another, other than the realization that that continuum is created in order to explore that type of linear time experience. Therefore, again, you are still physical within the idea of fourth density, but the limitations that you have explored in third begin to fall by the wayside as you realize it is all a product of your own consciousness. When we add the idea of fifth density, the first resultant factor, shall we say, is non-physicality. No longer the need for, as you say, a physical body. In actuality, what occurs is you then view yourself as the dimension itself. One step further removed, expanded from the fourth density viewpoint. No need for physicality. No need for the idea of linear time, although still some understanding of that idea and the ability to interact within the parameters of that idea. You are, again in fifth, viewed as the dimension itself. When moving to the idea of sixth density, you then view yourselves with some separation, still some separation, however more expanded from the sixth density viewpoint to include the fact that you are many dimensions and not just the one that you had considered yourself to be per se in sixth. Again, as we do move further away from the idea of third density, there is less of the idea to identify with in order to explain, but this will roughly give you the idea of the differences in these densities. So sixth, to recap, as you say, is viewing yourself as many dimensions with still some idea of separation. When moving into seventh density, as you say, you now view yourself completely as multidimensionality. Many dimensions that you are simultaneously. Able to single anyone out, but able to experience them simultaneously. In a sense, there are not many seventh density civilizations or consciousness in touch with you at this time. For that expanded consciousness has fairly little, as you say, in common with your civilization, with your focus. Therefore, that does describe the idea of the octave that is most close to your particular chosen focus. As we have said, in our civilization, we are fourth density, transitional fifth. We are about to move into the idea of non-physicality. One of the reasons that we are still, quote, in fourth density, in physicality, is because we enjoy and are excited very much at communicating with other civilizations such as yours. And within the fourth density reality, we are able to do so with some conventionality, with some ability to understand your experience and translate the ideas of self-empowerment that we live in our daily lives to you. There is still, shall we say, some difficulty in translation, but we feel that we have sufficiently been able to communicate these ideas to you. The idea of fifth density and sixth density may be most represented at this timing from the civilization you have labeled, and we have labeled also, the idea of Sirius consciousness. Within the idea of Sirius, the consciousness that is in touch mostly with your planet at this time is the sixth density version of that consciousness. That is the idea again where they are viewing themselves as many dimensions, but still with some separation. This does allow that communication. Upon your planet, that is indeed the civilization that is in touch with your dolphin consciousness. We have told you again last interaction of your time that your physicalized dolphin consciousness was, as you are, third transitional fourth density. We also at that time said that they had some offshoots into the idea of fifth and sixth density. These sixth density offshoots, as you say, are the ones that are and have been for many of your years in touch with the civilization of Sirius. Therefore, the sixth density aspect of the civilization of Sirius is most closely in communication with your dolphin civilization at this timing. Therefore, we will close this idea. And as always, during the sharing, if you do require some expansion of any of these ideas, please feel free to ask. A closing note again before we do open up the idea of sharing, for this has come up many times in your society, not only within these interactions, but within all interactions that we have had with your society. One of the ideas that we hear from time to time from members of your civilization is that what we are sharing with you is but the idea of philosophy. Therefore, we will again briefly delineate one way you may wish to view the difference between what is philosophical and what is applicable is to apply it. Therefore, when you are speaking a certain train of thought, a certain viewpoint, you may say, in a sense, you are espousing a philosophy. However, when you are acting a certain viewpoint, a certain perspective, then you are affecting mechanics. Therefore, again, in order to experience that which we speak to you, you must do just that. Put it into action. The only way you will ever be able to prove anything we are saying, and we have said time and time again, we do not expect nor desire that you do believe it just because we are saying it, is to apply these ideas in your reality. The extent to which you will apply these ideas will be the extent to which you will experience, as you say, benefit from same. Therefore, again, simply do. Simply take the trust you already have. Describe your desired reality and act on that idea, giving yourself the validity, granting yourself the deservability to then manifest what it is that you desire. Very often, when individuals in your civilization have deemed that our, quote, philosophy, quote, does not work, they have not themselves tried it, or they have not followed the ideas we have delineated in terms of fishing out limiting belief systems. Very often, when you come right down to it, when you push it all aside, when you get down to the most primary limiting belief, you will find one of two ideas still existing, even though you are privy to this information, and even though you may, as you say, listen to it quite often. One that we find generally is you do not believe 100% that you do create your own reality. You do believe you create some portion of it. You do believe that you have some, as you say, control over it. That is not what we are speaking of. We are talking about literally 100% ownership over your ability to manifest your reality as you desire. Therefore, any idea that falls short of this will fall short with the results. Secondly, again, this is nothing new. The idea is, do you really deserve that much ecstasy? You have been brought up in a society from your youngest ages whereby you have been taught you must earn anything you do get. Otherwise, you do not, quote, deserve it. Very strongly bought into in your reality. But as we have said, any of these ideas are simple to change. by simply validating them. Obviously, they are real ideas. You have experience not creating your own reality. You have experienced the results of lack of deservability. So you may say it is quite simple to grant validity to these ideas. They work very well. But you may now that you have granted that validity, grant equal validity to the idea that you do deserve it, that you do create your own reality 100%. And therefore, by equalizing these ideas, simply choosing that which you prefer, and again, not stopping at that step, that is just, in a sense, philosophy. It is then acting as though you believe you create your reality 100%. If you did, in fact, create your reality 100%, and something did come along which was unexpected, you would not look at it as an interruption in your path. You would think, well, of course, it must be part. I create my reality 100% according to my intention, according to my preference. Therefore, anything that occurs has a positive meaning that will actually accelerate the process that I desire and not, in a sense, get in the way. Therefore, again, take it back to basics. Realize that all definitions have equal validity, have equal strength, that all truths are true, and you simply get to pick which one you want. Sounds like a lot of fun if you allow it to be. Therefore, an appreciation for your willingness to allow us to reflect to you for the first time that which we are reflecting to you. And realizing again that your willingness to view any interaction, any seeming repetitive thing within your life as occurring the first time is a fourth density viewpoint in action. If indeed you feel, here it comes again, you are saying in third density, no uncertain third density terms, that the present is a result of the past. This has happened in the past and here it comes again. Simply by shifting your viewpoint toward the idea that everything is occurring for the first time, even if it has similarities, you then allow it to deliver the message it has this time as distinctly different from the message it may have had last time, therefore giving it a real difference and making it in fact not the same at all. And again, in appreciation for your willingness to even consider these ideas, for you are a bit beyond the consideration stage or would not be interacting with us at this timing. We do ask you now, how may I be of service to you? Sharing